What's going on, y'all? I appreciate y'all chiming in once again to the Spoon Fed Podcast. You already know who I am, but if you're new to this, I'm Spoon, also known as Spoon the World on Instagram, short for ST Don't worry, I'll put my link in the description box. And before we even carry on, like, subscribe, and share and comment on this, man. Our topic today: sexually transmitted demons. It's real, man. It's real. It's definitely real, man. And I know if you're old enough, you've been around the block, you know exactly what I'm talking about because we have so many statistics to talk about. And I'm going to get to it. But before we begin, today's sponsor, you already know, man. Splash. Splash clothing. These are the shorts right here. You already know what splash mean. Some people love and some hate. That's the way of the world, baby. Beautiful marketing. I'm also going to leave that in the description box and Instagram, everything in the website. So let's get to it. Yo, sexually transmitted demons. First and foremost, I'm going to start off from the beginning. You have to understand this. Anytime you have fornication with anybody or any woman or whoever you choose to, just remember this. Remember, you're giving off energy. And it's been proven scientifically, anytime a human touches each other's hand, they've seen this in the lab, they actually tested it. It's like we give off vibrations, we give off energy, we give off light, we give off heat. So when two like-minded beings connect, that's energy. Even what I just did right here, this is energy. Even though it's only mine, that's energy. Remember, everything that's living in the world, even trees, give off and emit energy. Light, everything is energy. So when you come together in a sexual bond or just a love bond, any type of bond coming together, connecting, it's going to be energizing. You're going to give off energy and the other person is going to receive. But let's get to the science behind it. Remember this: masculine, feminine. Masculine are the givers, women are the receivers. So pretty much majority of the energy that you're going to be giving off, you're going to be transferring each other's energy back and forth. But remember, the masculine energy is always going to have a stronghold on what is being transferred. You know what I'm saying? And what is coming back. It's just like two charged particles. If you give back a positive energy, somebody's going to give back a negative energy and vice versa. Or two positive conductors can be flowing positively. That means it's going to be on a good electrical charge. So just imagine if two negative forces are coming together. Two negatives can make a positive. But that doesn't always necessarily happen, especially with humans. We're too intricate just for good and bad and evil and good. You see what I'm saying? Because it's so many things that ties within us. And I'm going to break it down further. You have to ask yourself this as well. Remember, sex was mainly made for procreation. Period. Sex was mainly made to actually have a family, to build and plentify the world of people and children. You know what I'm saying? To ensure the future generations down the line. And you have to understand this as well. Remember, the male genitalia doesn't have as much sensitive receptors as a female genitalia. And I'm gonna break it down even further because it's gonna make y'all think further. Remember, a man's sexual organ is outside the body. A woman's sexual organ is inside the body. It's just like, ask yourself this: when you charge your phone, you need a charger, right? You got the plug. See, you just to say this is a charger. You got the plug. This is the man. And to say the woman, the phone. I wish I had an extra phone. Is you need to connect, right? So you can't have one without the other. There's going to be a giver and there's going to be a receiver of energy, but there's going to be a fluctuation of information going in the midst of that. Remember this, man. So you got to understand, but I say that to say this. You have to understand the female biological makeup. Remember, the clitoris, I'm going into deep terms, the clitoris is outside of the body. Remember, it's at the peak in the fold. So that's outside of the body, and that's the main stimulation that a woman can get. And that has the most sensitive receptors than anywhere else in the feminine region, the feminine sexual organ region, besides the G-spot. And I'm going to get to that in a second. Remember, when you penetrate, you're going in. You know what I'm saying? The clit is on top. You see what I'm saying? It's not in the trajectory of where the penetration is happening, but it's close by. It's parallel, but it's not there. And you got to ask yourself this: why? And I'm even double down on that. When you insert, right? When a man and a woman come together, when you insert, right, the G spot, if you know a woman's body, the G spot is actually on the top in this area. It's not in the same trajectory as the tunnel, if you get what I'm saying, the tube, you know what I'm saying? Or the vaginal opening. And you got to ask yourself why. Because one thing people don't understand, any human body, the body does not like continuous pleasure. And I know y'all be like, what you mean? I like pleasure. Yeah, you do when it happens. But the body in itself, your human makeup, flesh and blood and bones and spirit, the body does not like continuous. The key word is continuous pleasure, because that tricks the body. And I'm going to break it down why. The reason why is because it's like a drug. Because when the body gets pleasure, it's like, whoa, wow. What is enacted in the body is dopamine. Dopamine is a natural chemical in the body that gives off pleasure receptors that gives you euphoria, that puts you on a different mode. That's why I like to say, if you're having a good time, you're laughing, or even if you're fornicating in a sexual activity, you're going to be feeling like, oh my God, this feels so good. But the thing is, your body can only withstand that for so long. And because if you keep doing it, you know what I'm saying, at a massive scale, and I'm going to break down the examples of this. If you keep doing that at a massive scale, continuous, your body's sensory is going to wear off. Perfect example. But say if you've seen a person that's addicted to drugs, it's the same thing. When you have too much something of pleasure, it could destroy you. You see what I'm saying? And not to go directly to the drugs, but I'm going to show you. It's just like pleasure. If you take an illegal substance, right, and put it in your body, you're going to have a quick instant of, oh, euphoria and going wild and oh my God. And then guess what? You're going to crash, come back down to baseline, to where you normally are, but your body is going to start craving that substance. Everything in moderation, but certain things that hit the body is not supposed to be that way. You see what I'm saying? Remember, the body loves peace, continuous peace. It doesn't like continuous pleasure, because when that happens, it messes with your mind, it messes with your heart, it messes with your body function, especially it messes with your mind. Because ask yourself this. We all have family members that was hooked to drugs, right? Some of them, God rest their soul, has passed on. And we know some that passed on. And we know some that's still living, that's still doing the same thing. And how do they look? Dysfunctional, right? The same thing with people that has continuous and multiple sexual encounters. And I'm going to break this down. Ask yourself this. I'm going in today. Ask yourself this. Have you ever seen I'm going to start as an adult. Have you ever seen a woman or a man that's been in a relationship? It's mostly women that this happens to, that's been in a relationship, and then all of a sudden she broke up, and then she's in another relationship just like that. That's not healthy, because she's compensating, because she replaced the other person because she's trying to forget the other person, not realizing that she's doing damage to her body, especially if she's fornicating on that level. Because when it comes to your spirit and your body, right? You didn't get over the last person. It takes time, especially for women. And I'm going to get to all that in a second. It takes time. You can't just jump to one person and say, oh, I'm going to jump to the next guy and be like, oh, I'm good. No, you didn't get over the last person. That other person's energy is still in you. And if you didn't heal from that, and especially if it was toxic, what do you think you're bringing into the new situation? Toxicity. And by keep redoing this over and over and over, we all know people that do this. Like, oh, nah, I'm with this new guy. And you're like, wait a minute, you just got it. What happened to this person? And they're like five dudes in. You're like, damn, this is the fifth person you with in the same year? And it's like, whoa, you have to purge yourself from that negative energy. You have to detach yourself. The same thing with men. But it hurts more on females, because remember, I'm going to get to this in a second as well. I'm going to jump to this in a second as well. Because men, we think logical. Women think emotional with their heart. Masculine energy, feminine energy. You see what I'm saying? So you have to understand the difference. So a man could do that, but it still could be detrimental to him too, because that happened to me. Like if you sleep around a lot, especially for men, and you don't know about that emotional connection, you don't know the mental and the physical. I mean, pardon, you don't know the mental and the emotional. You just jump in the physical. You would not know what you want, and this is why certain women have and men have certain problems tying a knot with certain people or being directly just say, oh, this is what I want in my life. They're jumping from one person to the next because they've been around the block so many different times that they want more and more and more. It's just like an addict. You're not, I'm going to put it so blunt. It's just like a person that's on those China White. You know what I'm saying? Without saying too much. If you on that powder, right? And you shoot up or whatever, and it's called ringing your bell. Your first hit, your first high is ringing your bell. You're not gonna ever come. You're not gonna get another hit that's good like your first hit. Never, because that's the first time your body coped with it. You see what I'm saying? That's the first time your body like, whoa, what is this? The same thing is with sex. Like you're never gonna get back to that first time, like your virginity. Never. Nothing's gonna feel like the first time when you or hit that first nut. Everybody know what I'm talking about. Ain't nothing like that first nut. Like, wow, you probably was in a trance. You know what I'm saying? Like you was in a deep state of consciousness at that point. You was probably turned into Buddha. Well, I did. But let me get to this part as well. We all know men that do that. We all know women that do that. How are their relationships? It's usually quick in and out. And they cannot, the reason why that's as important is because remember, sex is supposed to be for procreation and starting of a family. So a lot of people get the physical right, but they don't get everything else joined into it. So pretty much what you're doing is transferring those negative energies back and forth to each other. But before I go on, I'm gonna break it further down. But let me slow up. Let me get to certain things that you need to understand. Humans bond in 3 ways. You have to understand this. Humans bond mentally, which is consciously, emotionally, which can be spiritually, and physically. What we see in today's society, we see majority of the people bonding with another person in the physical form, but they're not bonding mentally and emotionally. And the reason for that is because they're afraid of abandonment. That's going to be another episode, but I'm not going to get too further into that. But when you find people, or if there's a man and a woman that can mentally bond together and emotionally bond together without fear of abandonment and is actually pure, everything else doesn't matter. Everything else will sink in. The physical will be the top, be the cherry on the cake. You know what I'm saying? After the whipped cream, because it's like, oh, everything is in sync, and that's when you have a sacred union. You see what I'm saying? It's like, yo, the mental, the emotional, and the physical is all in line. It's perfect. But the problem is a lot of people are not in line, and they're on the decline. You got to understand that. Bonding issues is serious. And you have to understand, sex is a drug. Sex is a drug if you keep doing it and you're trying to get that feeling, which I know y'all know there's certain people that's in the same thing. And too much of anything is no good. Too much of anything is no good because anything could be your drug. It could be food. You see a lot of heavy people now because they eat. But let me not divert. Remember, anytime you're dealing with a person in a sexual manner, you are transferring energy. So what you must do, we're not just going to give the problems, what you must do is know yourself, know your partner. You can't just be sleeping around with a bunch of people. You can, but guess what? It's going to have a lot of problems and ramifications later on. And you could attend to this because now, just look at the statistics. Marriage is down, divorces are up because people don't know what they really want. Because they at times, majority of the times, they're hypersexualized or they have plenty of options. That's why in the past, you have to understand this. In the past, people would only have sex when they get married because that when they first get that mental right and the emotional right, and then the physical is once they hit it off with that person, they're like, this is not as bad. But when you have all these options beforehand, especially women, and then at a young age, and then all of a sudden you go into your adulthood, that's a problem. Because the reason why it's a problem, because at times you don't even know yourself before you start having fornication with other people. You're not gonna fully know yourself at 18 and know what you want. And the thing is, why that is dangerous is because when you start sexualizing yourself early, the sensitivity goes down. So you start doing more wilder stuff. Like you see girls that turn into nymphos. You see what I'm saying? Like dudes too. They just want sex all the time. They get addicted to it. And you see a dude like, yo, I love this. I love it. You know what I'm saying? And some girls be in some wild predicaments, threesomes, gangbangs, orgies, all of that. These are the facts. And or some of them like, oh, they like anal, they like all this stuff. They like all type of different things. And you have to ask yourself, why? Because even if when I look at myself, when I started getting really seasoned, I'm like, yo, I want this, I want that, I wanted wilder stuff. I wanted girls to do wild things. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Because the sensitivity is down. I already was experimenting with girls at a young age. And it's because I didn't have the discipline. And that's the other thing. You got to be disciplined and know, like, wait a minute, I got to take time out for myself. I can't just jump into another situation. And that's one thing I'm glad that anytime I was in a serious situation or serious relationship and I broke it off, I took time for myself. I can't jump into a new situation. You know what I'm saying? Because if you jump into a new situation, you bring in that same negative energy, whether you like it, to the next situation. You got to give time to heal. And that's what people got to understand. You got to know yourself, get time to heal, and know what you're doing. Because by sleeping around, you're just transmitting so many different things. And I'm going to give y'all a perfect example. You ever, especially men or women, you can add to this. You ever had a situation, you had an interaction or fornication with somebody, and then all of a sudden, even though you had a good time, you was like, I don't feel right. Like, I feel angry. Or all of a sudden, that person was acting weird, and that's energy. You probably don't see it right away, but that's the energy that y'all gave to each other in transmission during the activity. Be careful out here, y'all. And in order to combat these problems, you have to realize what you're doing and understand, because I guarantee nobody told you this before. This is the first time probably somebody told you, like, wow, yeah. Remember, sex is an energy transfer. It's actually a ritual, because it's two people coming together in a bond. That's like the last step, because after the mental, after the masculine energy, the mental, after the female energy, the emotional, the physical is the last step. So know what y'all doing, know your worth, and remember, sex can destroy you, and it can destroy what you're about. And that's why you see a lot of single mother households, sadly to say. It's not always the mother's fault. At times it could be the dude's fault as well, because he can't commit. He's like, nah, I'm good. I'm not. That comes down to nature versus nurture again. If y'all need to check up on that episode, because remember, we could be traumatized around sexual activities too. I'm gonna get to it real quick. Nurture. Your parents, you could probably walk into your parents and go, oh my God, like that can mess with you. But or nature, when you're outside, you might see something that you like, or somebody did something to you, and you probably might be traumatized by it. So, but that's another topic. But the whole point is, be selective and elective of who you deal with on that level. It could save your life, and it could prolong your life, and it could actually save you money and actually do better things for you when you actually make the right choices. That's with anything. When you make the right choices, you might like the person physical and all that, but if y'all are not bonding together properly, be careful, because that sounds like bad energy. Much love, y'all. I appreciate y'all chiming into the Spoon-Fed Podcast. Please like, subscribe, and comment. I want to hear your comments on this one. Don't be fronting. I want to hear your comments on this one. Spoon the World chiming out. Thank you for chiming to the Spoon-Fed Podcast. Much love.